Hey everybody, we are on Unit 24. This is the final unit. So the course is basically done. I've taught as much content as I possibly can. I've taught basically all the stuff that I feel is going to be relevant to you. Of course it's not going to be everything, it's always a learning experience. A lot of it has been condensed. I could really come up with like 50 or 60 units, but I don't want to drag it out, else it becomes a little bit ridiculous. So I've taken the stuff that I feel is going to be most relevant to you guys. So now we've come to the final unit, and I'm not going to be talking about content anymore. I'm going to be talking about the scenario questions. So I would have mentioned that all the way back in Unit 2, if you can remember. And I had a very quick example of a donut shop. And I'm actually going to run through that example in a little bit more detail here. Also, in the notes, you'll be able to read up a more detailed answer as well. That will help you to actually do the assessment yourself. So, you can, generate some ideas on how you can approach these scenario questions. So, these scenario questions, very, very broad, really. It could cover almost anything because, like I said, economics is everywhere. So what we've got here, we've got someone here, for example, marketing. It's very basic. So again, there's economics applied to marketing. How would you market your new cereal? Where would you place it? Which supermarkets would you put your cereal in? I've come up here with this thing called Smurf Bites, compared to some real life cereals. What we got here? We got Froot Loops, Lucky Charms, and Captain Crunch. How would you market this cereal? Why would you want people to buy this cereal, maybe not these other cereals? Now that's not the question we're talking about here, but this is a particular scenario you could be in. And maybe there's a question that relates to marketing coming up. Hint? No, not really. Okay, so the question that I want to talk about is the one that I briefly mentioned in Unit 2, and that's about donuts. So, a full question is in the notes. So, just a brief summary of what it's about. So, you're running a donut shop, and you've been very successful in the past. A new entrant has come along, and they are also becoming quite successful. In fact, their success is hurting you. This new company, they are charging a little bit less for their donuts, and they're starting to win over some of your customers. So the question is basically asking, how would you want to respond? What is going to be your course of action to try and get your business back on track so you don't end up losing out to this new competitor? So, how I like to start any sort of scenario is to do an analysis. Figure out what's happening, what's went right, what went wrong, what's happening before, what's happening now. So what was your revenue and what were your costs? You got the costs and the revenue in the question itself prior to the arrival of this new entrant. What are your revenue and what is your cost now? And I like to break it down per donut. So I think we've got plain donuts, we've got fancy donuts, and we've got iced donuts. So it's just analysis of which donuts are performing, which ones aren't. Maybe give us a bit of an idea in regards to what the demand is for these various types of donuts and which donuts are getting hit the hardest. So at least we can identify the crux of the problem that's being caused by this new entrant, for us anyway. Righty. So after that, I proposed a number of solutions. I have the full solutions in the notes itself, but just a quick description of what I've done. I've got something known as commodity bundling. So I may have mentioned that in one of the units, I believe I did, in regards to McDonald's bundling their meals together. You got the drink and the chips and the burgers or hot dogs, whatever they're selling, sold as one package. So I'm suggesting here the donuts, that they sell different types of donuts together. Because you're reading the question that your customers actually like to buy more than one donut, often a plain donut with either a fancy donut or an iced donut. So what you can do is you can bundle that together so you can buy those two donuts together but at a lower price. So therefore you could be winning over the people that may be buying one donut from you, maybe one donut from the other shop. So now that you're getting these people here, and also changing the pricing for the bundling so that it's actually a little bit cheaper than buying separately from your competition. I've recommended keeping the price of buying individual donuts the same as before, so you can still earn as much revenue on those as you possibly can. Another change I'm suggesting, there's a lot of leftover donuts at the end of the day because they weren't selling. So what you can do is actually sell these donuts at a lower price. So you reach your last hour or half hour of the day, you've got lots of donuts left, you can cut this price by half so you can sell them. Because otherwise you're just throwing the donuts away, and effectively any money you can make out of these donuts is effectively is profit if you're just going to be throwing these donuts away. You don't need to concern yourself so much about cost anymore, because you're just going to be throwing away. There's going to be no revenue from those donuts. So some revenue is better than no revenue. Another suggestion I made is increase the number of fancy donuts. So you may mix one batch with half iced and half fancy. Simply because the fancy donuts, even though the competitors are doing well, are in fact still selling out, as well as we've got a lot of iced donuts left. So maybe we're producing a little bit too much of the iced donuts and not enough of the fancy. So we can have more fancy donuts there, and that will give us an idea of what the demand is for the fancy donuts, because we don't really know. If you have more fancy donuts, maybe they'll all be selling out, or maybe they wouldn't. I'm guessing that we're going to go with half a batch, because we didn't quite reach the 50 donuts 6 months ago, so the demand probably isn't going to be too much more than 50, but we'll have a better idea. And of course, you can always change your plan once you've enacted it and once you've got more information. What's also good as well is to be able to analyse what could go wrong. And you could call this some sort of sensitivity analysis, or you could it's kind of like a bit of a devil's advocate. So we made our predictions of why we're losing customers. We feel that it's probably because of a price, but we could be wrong. What if, for example, the other company, we think they're using the same technology, maybe they're using a different technology and they can produce with a much lower price. So a price war or whatever is going to go against us. We think it might not be, because with the established firm they don't seem to have any new methods, but it could be wrong. Also, we're thinking that people are going there because they're a little bit cheaper. It's possible people like their donuts more than ours. Their donuts could be better. So if our current strategy is not working, then we may need to change the donuts themselves a little bit, make them a little bit more appealing. As you remember, the fancy donuts are still very popular. It could be along the lines that people are moving away from plain donuts now. We're not 100% sure. So it's always good to do a review of what's happening later on. And also be prepared, you may have to change your plans. So it's always good to understand what could possibly go wrong. Alright, so now it's time for your scenario questions. So if you want to know a little bit more about my approach to the donuts, like I mentioned, you can read the notes. Now here comes your scenario questions, and these scenario questions are fleshed out in full detail in the notes themselves, but I can cover them very briefly here and what we've got. Okay, so first question, we got shopping choices. You do your shopping for your family. Seems simple enough, and there are a number of places you can do your shopping. You're also a very busy person. So you've got the weekend, not the entire weekend, and you've also got, I think, a few hours on Wednesday as well to get the shopping. So you've got to decide when you're going to do the shopping, and also where you're going to get it from. There's several different supermarkets, and they sell different things. And the people that you're getting the shopping for, your family, I think you've got 2 children, a husband and an uncle, was that? So they have their particular needs as well. So they're going to be pressing you to get them what they want. So you kind of need to make them happy too. So you can see the sort of connection here. Managing your time, we sort of mentioned that earlier on in the course. Also trying to understand other people's preferences as well. And at the same time, I guess trying to get the best outcome altogether. And also, of course, you'd be working within a budget as well. So you've got a budget in terms of money, and you've also got limited time as well. And you also have to bear in mind your own utility. What do you enjoy doing? So we have a map here. There we got the map. We got a map. You see the map? Here we go. So it's a very, very basic map, but it can be of some use. And in the question, I think it tells you how far these various places are, and also about the activities of your family members. Some of this may not seem relevant, some of it may be more relevant than you think. So it's always worth thinking about the information you have. You know, there could be a red herring in there, or it could actually be more relevant than you think. Like the location of, what have we got here, of your husband's workplace, or the location of your children's school, and when you pick them up, and when, you know, how you two take turns on when you pick them up, or if they're taking the bus and things like that. So make use of the map to actually maybe enhance your question as well. Our second scenario question, puts you in a position of town mayor. So this is a little bit different. So we've gone from something that affects you and your family to a much broader type of scenario question where you are actually in charge of a town which you've just taken over. And you've taken over from this mayor who, well, may not have done a particularly good job, has left the town in not such a great condition. There's a number of different problems, but at least you have some money to fix them. So now what you need to do is you need to decide what needs fixing. And the question itself provides some cost estimates of the various possible proposals, and also outlines some of the major problems. Some of them may be more bigger than others, and also it's got some feedback from the town folks itself. And as with the previous question, I've also included a map, a little town map as well, which might be able to help you out and give you some sort of idea where everything's placed. So you've got two questions here, both with maps. So I know you probably think it's a little bit different from normal sort of questions you face, but this is more information. And again, not all the information may be relevant. Some of it may be more relevant than you think initially. So, you know, take note of the map and use the map to try and help you make the various decisions. So with all these questions, there are really no wrong answers, shall I say. And like I said, there's no real perfect answer either. The key is, though, is being able to explain the choices you make, why you've made the choices, and the logic supporting your choices. It's also important as well that you mention about the economics that you use to support, you know, the choices that you've made and why that you've made them. It's also good to point out as well some of the things that could go wrong. And in the case, I think, of this question, you also have an option to say what you would do if you had even more money than you have. So, you know, it goes deeper into terms of the priorities. And again, you've got to bear in mind, as you're the mayor, you may see something as a particular problem, but the feedback of the town folk is also very important as well, because after all, you are there to provide them a service. So you've got to consider them. As again, we're looking at basically what other people want in their utility, and we're also looking at the broader picture of the town itself. So I hope that helps you out with these questions. So like I said, I won't be there to mark them, but you can actually work on it yourself, and I think maybe you can contact me. I'm not figuring out how that actually works at the moment in terms of contacting. This is the first course I'm actually running through Udemy, so I'm not sure how the feedback loops on that, but I suggest that you have a little go at that, and I might be able to provide some more information. There's some way of providing information in terms of I could actually have a look at what you've done, which would be great, but like I said, I'm not entirely sure on how that works at the moment. So that's it for this course, 24 units. I think we got quite a few hours of video in there. I think looking at 3 to 4 hours of it. So, you know, if you made it all the way through, you've been answering the questions, then you have a go at these scenario questions as well. The key is, you know, it gets you thinking. Hopefully you'll come away from this course thinking, you know what, economics really is all around us, and I've got some ideas, some of the theories, and it's kind of helping me have a look at the world and possibly change my perspective. There's also things you'd be looking at thinking, well, you know, this is some of the stuff I presented. I presented some of the theories. I've also thrown in there, I couldn't help it, some of my own opinions there as well, which of course is good. I think it's good. You all have to have your opinions. So it's all been a lot of fun. So a real big thank you for getting through these 24 units, and I hope this is some value to you. And thank you very much, and hopefully you'll enjoy these scenario questions. Something a bit different, but I think it could be a really good way to help you grasp and apply some of the stuff that's been taught in this course. So long for now.